Happy Friday Eve. Happy Thursday. Happy Halloween. We're here. I'm Tasha. Hope you can hear me. And I hope you're having a great Halloween. How's it going out there? Let me know if you can hear me. I am trimming blocks tonight and going to be drinking some caffeine. Hi, Twyla. Happy Halloween. Did you do anybody do any Halloween festivities today? I feel like that's all I did today was Halloween festivities. Thanks, Brenda. Hopefully I'll be sniffling less this week because I feel like I'm on the mend. Hi, Arthur. Happy Halloween. What did everybody get up to today? Anything exciting? Nice to meet you, Sabrina. You know those shared accounts, or when you're logged into something, it screws with you a little bit. I'll try to remember that it is Sabrina, and I like the way you spelled that, Sabrina. I think normally I see it with an I. Did you get up to anything exciting for Halloween? So I use a Janome 6700P Memory Craft, and it is not an embroidery machine. It does have a lot of stitches on it though, but it doesn't have like a hoop and do like the big embroidery designs. But that is something that I really am interested in. I literally just bought this machine almost like exactly a month ago today. And I haven't really played around with it much, and I already have dreams and hopes of an embroidery machine, but I have not dabbled in embroidery yet. But I see a lot of interesting things out there that people are embroidering, and man, is it tempting. It is very tempting. I was using my previous sewing machine. It was a Brother. It wasn't like bare bones, but it was, just above it. For almost 10 years, I have been sewing with that bad boy. I still love it, still sentimentally attached to it, still sitting over there. But this is definitely a very big upgrade for me. Very big upgrade. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Brenda, getting a separate machine that does for embroidery specifically. That you would want like a hoop, right? I feel like most of the people that I'm, following on all the social medias have like that little hoop that goes onto their embroidery machine. Hi, Arlie. Happy Thursday. Happy Halloween. Hope you had a great day. Yeah, no problem. I love like seeing all the little projects that people do. And actually for our wedding, which was like almost 10 years ago now, someone bought towels off our registry and embroidered them with our initials. And I think there was a set of maybe 2 or 4. It's down to just one ratty little towel that's left after all these years, just like a bathroom hand towel. And I at that moment, I loved the idea of embroidery, because how fun is that to be able to just like add little personal touches to things. I'm still very tempted. I've been searching Marketplace for used embroidery machines pretty much like every other day right now. Oh, Brenda has the Janome 500E. That's funny. I didn't know you already had a Janome when you got this one too. Hi, Tessa. Happy Halloween. Got my festive shirt on. Had this shirt for a long time, and it comes out once, Actually, I think I've worn it twice this year, so it's gotten a lot of use this year. So I'm trimming down these blocks to 6.5, and I always agonize over this, and I can't believe I'm doing this while someone could be watching, because I am not the best at this. I just wing things, if you haven't noticed that yet. I'm not sure, Brenda. Do you have a recommendation of like a good embroidery machine? I guess good depends on like how much money you're wanting to spend, what you're trying to do with it, right? There could be different factors in what's a good machine. Thank you. I think I'm going to try to make one of these next year. Like take a sweatshirt, like, you know, all those cute, I know I've been talking about it and haven't actually made anything. And you'll notice I'm not wearing the witch's hat that I was hoping to make. But how fun would it be? I was thinking, like, what if I made like little patchwork, like face, just like this on a different sweatshirt. So I might try to. I also have a lot of dreams and hopes and ideas and not a lot of time. So we'll see. I was talking with a friend of mine today and I was like, I think I need to like do all of my Halloween sewing in maybe July of next year, and then start like my Christmas sewing in like September, because I was trying to work on that witch's hat today and I was feeling stressed because I was rushing because I wanted it done today. And I said, you know what, one of my sewing room rules is if you're not having fun, it's time to take a break. And that's the rule for the kids and that's the rule for me. So because I was rushing and couldn't quite figure things out, I said, this will have to be a next year project. Just can't get through it today. Just can't get through it today. Tessa, did you do any fun Halloween activities today? Actually attempt to cut some of this. No. Hi, Candace. Oh, you're new to sewing. How exciting. Have you, what have you been making on your beginner machine, as you called it? Like, what's your first projects been? Have you been quilting or sewing bags or sewing clothes? The one nice thing about trimming these blocks is I have a ruler that's the exact size of the block I need. So that does help. Although I normally stand when I trim. These are not exactly perfect, but I went to my first day of a quilt retreat. It was so nice getting away. So is this like a quilt retreat? You're spending the night there tonight right now? Or I've actually even heard of like sleep in your own bed quilt retreats. One of the local quilt shops did that around here, and I feel like I would really like that. Sew all day, you can leave your machine there overnight, and then you can go back tomorrow and finish up. I love that idea. Oh, there's my little scissors I couldn't find. Yes, I am quilting. I am working on a rag quilt. Fun. I haven't made one of those yet. And now I only want to watch sewers on YouTube, sewing on YouTube. Yeah. Welcome to the obsession. It's a problem. It's not a problem. But I am currently quilty obsessed, and probably a few people who are on here may have heard this already. But the reason why I created this YouTube channel is because I've been probably full-blown quilt obsessed for about a year. I've been quilting for about 10 years on and off, but like now my kids are a little bit bigger. My youngest is 4. I've been quilting a lot. Well, she was 3 last year when you kind of get some independence when they turn 3. And my husband just can't listen to it anymore. He has no interest in quilting. He's such a good sport. So I said, you know what? I loved watching YouTubers and I just wanted to talk. And thankfully I'm finding some people who like to also talk about quilting or listen to me talk about quilting. So it's been great. There's one next month, one of those sleep at homes. Oh, and that's what Tessa's doing. I love that. How far away is it from your house, Tessa? Like, are you driving 15 minutes or a little bit longer than that? Oh, you're going to it. So you went to your first one today, local. Just gonna sleep at home, and then now you're already leveling up and you're going out of town. I love that. You're diving right into the retreat sewing. Yes. And then I found Brenda because we were both part of Libs Elliott's Sew Squad, which Libs is a wonderful, just interesting quilter. Like, she does a lot of cool things, but she's also just a very kind human. So if you haven't had a chance to find, she's mostly on Instagram. I feel like you're not going to really find her over here on YouTube, I don't think. But if you're on Instagram, go check out Libs because she's just a very good human, and she makes some cool quilts. I've made 2 of her quilt patterns and I love them both. And I bought like 2 more to go. But we'll see. You know, we'll see. I have hopes and dreams of getting to them all. I want to do her skull one next, the Watcher. Yes, I found Brenda and now she's stuck with me. Now she's here to delete comments for me too. Because if you were here last week, I had my first creep here last week. And so now I have figured out that somebody has to be subscribed to the channel for 20 minutes before they can comment, and made Brenda a moderator. So hopefully we won't have anyone asking to see my boobs this week. Yeah, I don't think I would do that Watcher one. I want to do it in applique. I admire your ambition to do it in EPP though. Brenda, did you hand out candy to trick-or-treaters? Did you get many? Did anybody else get any trick-or-treaters tonight? We accidentally left our light on. We live kind of in the middle of nowhere. We're a little rural. And I started panicking because our ring went off. And I'm like, oh no, you didn't. It was Amazon delivering something. We didn't end up getting any trick-or-treaters. Which is great because we meant to turn the light off but forgot. We went to my sister's tonight to go trick-or-treat, which was absolute chaos, but she lives in a wonderful little neighborhood. So that was nice. I think I just trimmed that one a smidge too short. Nope, it's perfect actually. I'm really not used to trimming sitting down. But it's going well. So Brenda handed out candy and it was so warm this year. We ended up with 58 kids. Our usual in the last 10 years has been no more than 40. Honestly, the best day for church. I'm in New York State. It was the best day of trick-or-treating I can ever remember from when I was a child all the way through now. It's like 70 degrees. Perfect. It was absolutely perfect for a stroll tonight for trick-or-treating. Perfection. Wasn't too windy here today. Usually it is. But it was not. My kids were so exhausted. They fell asleep in the car on the way home. And then when they got home, my son basically didn't even want to eat any candy. He just wanted to go to bed. He was like, Mom, I'm so tired. He's 7. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to argue with that. You go to bed. Blow up costume. Yeah, those blow up costumes will definitely get you when it's windy. They will. So the goal for me when I'm trimming these is to have 1/4 of an inch. So like if you can see this, the goal is to have 1/4 of an inch of this light pink. But actually I can kind of tell it looks pretty good. When I made the, yeah, actually, I don't know, my little 1/4 of an inch radar must be off a little bit because these are perfect and I feel like they look a little too small. Yes, Sabrina. So yeah, this piece right here is a 1/4 circle block. This is from a curvy quilt. This is the quilt I've been working on. It's called Pinnacle Pop. This is the second quilt pattern I ever wrote and released. It's all curves. So maybe not the most beginner friendly, but when you're ready to tackle curves, I'll be ready with a pattern for you. So kind of, right? Like, so there's orange peel blocks in this quilt too. So you cut the outer pieces and then you cut the middle piece and you sew them all together. Very fun and exciting. I love curves. This is how actually that Libs who we were just talking about, she is the one that introduced me to curves and I am now curve obsessed. So, you know, when you're ready to party with curves, we have some good recommendations for you. And then like, oh, you can't really see it, but I got one here. I'm also working on like inset curves. Is that what it's? Yeah, inset circles. So this one is, I think this one's called Aperture by Cotton and Bourbon. Another great and interesting quilt pattern designer. I have not designed any of my own patterns that are inset circles like that, but it's coming. I can feel it. Hi, Zaza. Hi, Glenda. Don't be sorry you're late. Thanks for coming and thank you. Thank you, Glenda. Yeah, I wish I did another one of Cotton and Bourbon's patterns. It was called her Poppy Quilt, and I entered it into my guild's quilt show, and I haven't gotten that one back. I'm hoping to get that one back this month when I go. I got to figure out what day it is so I can put it on my calendar and not forget. And I absolutely love that one. Absolutely love that one. I was going to buy the 3-yard curve book and give it a try. I've never heard of that one. But I think you should find something curvy and sew it, whatever it is, whatever strikes you, because it's so fun. And I'm not going to lie, like every now and again, I have a good example of it in one of these. I have little, like, I don't know if I want to call them puckers or pleats. You get, oh yeah, here's a good one. Good one, meaning this one's like the most wonky. I wonder if you can see that. You can see that it's a little bit wonky. Right here. It's kind of hard to tell from how far away I am. But you know what? It'll be fine once it's quilted and washed and gets that crinkle. Also, there's a lot of great ways to, you know, fix those little pleats if they bother you. But after a while, sewing curves is not that much different than sewing anything else. You just got to do it a few times. Starting with one of these blocks, the 1/4 circles is a great way to go. So Tessa, this is, and I'm not going to try to be a complainer. Oh my God, Brenda, what is the name of this fabric again that I've been complaining about and now I can't remember? Art Gallery Fabrics. Art Gallery Fabrics. And so it's a little thinner and I find that like I can't iron things out of this fabric that easily. Sometimes with the Kona, I can like tug it a little and iron it a little and, you know, or maybe pick 1 or 2 stitches and do it. I don't know. I have a hard time with this Art Gallery. Yes, pure solids. Part of me thinks that ironing is part of the issue with that. I don't know what it is about this fabric. If it's a Tasha problem, like it just creases a lot for me. It's a lot thinner than I'm used to. It's just not my preferred fabric. I love the colors though. The colors are so great. See, Zaza, there are so many people who love art gallery fabrics. I don't know what it is for me. Do you find that they are like funky when you iron it? Does it wrinkle? Am I just is it is there other art gallery fabrics other than the pure solids, Brenda? I don't even know. This is my first experience. I love the colors. I would definitely give them a try again, possibly. But yeah, I'm struggling. It's I don't know if I would say that it's silky, but it is more silky than the Konas I've been using. Okay, so Brenda thinks it might just be the solids. Sabrina is asking, what are good places to buy quilting fabric online? So I love the Fat Quarter Shop and Missouri Star. Those are some of the bigger ones, but I also like to try to find local quilt shops that have things I like, or sample different people on Etsy. But when I have like something really specific in mind, I usually go to Fat Quarter Shop first and then Missouri Star. Zaza, are you attacking me? Am I ironing rather than pressing? Probably. The answer to that is probably yes. And that is actually a really fair point. I'm going to try pressing and not ironing next time. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I could almost guarantee I'm ironing and not pressing. I could almost guarantee it. I'm attacked. I've been feeling attacked. Jordans. I have heard of Jordans. Intrepid Thread. And Hawthorne Supply Company. Oh, and Tessa's saying Hobby Lobby has Kona solids. Haven't been to a Hobby Lobby in a very long time. There's just not one anywhere near me. I also steam press before I cut. Okay, so Zaza says it took me a long time to learn to press and not iron, and I also steam press before I cut my fabric. Now here's a question for you, Zaza. Do you put sorry, got a little frog in my throat. Do you put water in your iron or are you using like a separate spray bottle? I've never actually put water in my iron. I use a big separate plastic spray bottle and I use it with Best Press. And I do use that before I cut, generally speaking. I will spray it down a little bit. And iron, definitely not press, and I definitely iron it. So hard to not just go. I may never learn to just press, but you know what? I think before I continue to complain about these fabrics, I should give it a go. And welcome back, Irish Style Lady. And I remember that you go by a different name, but I don't remember what your name is. So I apologize, but I do remember you're here and I do remember your screen name. Just can't remember your name, but hello, welcome back. Happy Halloween. I hope you had a great day and that you either had a lot of trick-or-treaters or you ignored your trick-or-treaters or whatever, whatever made your day. Yeah, I was thinking of getting a second water bottle. I think I have one upstairs and putting water in it. We have very hard water, so I would probably want to use some of our filtered water too because we have hard water and then we treat it with softener salts and the water's just funky. So Zaza saying she does put water in her iron but empties it after every use. I respect that for you. I know that that won't happen to me. I know I won't do that. 0% chance. But she says, to be honest, when I'm doing a pre-cut, it's usually ironing and not pressing. And yeah, okay. And then once I've sewn a block, I press. So I have been trying to be better about once I sew the block, I press. But I can guarantee I'm not super consistent with that. I always like zone out listening to whatever I'm listening to, and I catch myself ironing. So Candace is saying our gallery fabrics is a softer, tighter weave. So that, yes, this is definitely softer. That's a great word for what, like compared to Kona, like it is, yeah, Kona's like stiffer. I would never even think about starching that because it just feels like thick enough to me. So yes, Linda, thank you. Yes, so maybe I do think I should have like maybe used a little bit more of that best press before I went to town on these. Again, I love the actual colors of them. I've just been having a little bit of a hard time, but I do appreciate that it is probably a Tasha issue for some of it. Spraying with a mister will do the job. Yeah, I want to get one of those continuous spray bottles, or the one I have isn't great. I just got it at the dollar store like a million years ago for something else and repurposed it. So might try to. What is everyone's favorite scent of Best Press? I love that question. And I actually, even though it's like the white bottle, I think it's just unscented but it has a little scent to it. I like that. That's the one I've been doing most of the time. So can I explain press versus iron? Sure. So when and this is my understanding, so I have a lot of experts in the chat, so we'll see what they say. Pretend my mouse is my iron. When I'm ironing something, it's literally a verb. Like you're thinking of ironing a shirt. You're going like this. I won't like do it because I don't want to screw up the screen. So you're going like this and you're ironing. When you're pressing, you're taking your iron, you're pressing it down, you're leaving it for a few seconds. You're picking your iron up and you're moving it over. You are never going like this and ironing. So what Zaza was saying too is like some of my seams are a little wonky. Especially when you have a block that you've sewn and you take your iron and you start ironing and not pressing, you are distorting it, especially depending on how the block has been assembled or cut. There's different like cutting things on the bias and which way you cut your fabric, it's more or less stretchy. If you have never done so, you should take a piece of fabric and you should hold it one way and stretch it, hold it the other way and stretch it on a diagonal. And you'll see that like, okay, when I'm doing it this way, it's super tight and can't stretch. And you'll get an idea of, and I'm not an expert on that. I always have to like Google it every time I do it. So when you're pressing, you're literally just pressing down, picking up, pressing down, picking up. And when you're ironing, you're ironing. You should be pressing when you're quilting for the most part, except for like what we said earlier, before you've cut your fabric, you're not really harming much by ironing it. But once you have a block or some smaller pieces, you should just be pressing. And Best Press is a starch alternative. It has a lot of good scents. And a lot of people like that. I buy it in a gallon jug, usually like from Joann's when I have one of those coupons. And then I've been putting it into a spray bottle. And so Best Press for me would work nice on one of these like, thinner fabrics or something that feels a little silkier, is some word somebody used earlier. Just things that, when you're using them, they are getting crinkled. And then, as you quilt more and use more fabric, you'll notice that some are thicker, some are thinner, and, and then you can you'll just, with time and practice, you'll figure out what you like to do. And Best Press does usually, as Tessa said, gets the creases out. So especially when you get that fabric, you've got it mailed to you or it's coming off the bolt and it's got that, that thick crease in it that's been in there for a while. I always use Best Press. lightly spritz the fabric. I iron, not press. That's why I'm doing the ironing motion, iron it. And yeah, that best press is actually why I started using best press, was just to use something to get the creases out. Jordan Fabrics has a lot of good pressing tutorials. She taught me to press. I should probably check those out. Will I? I don't know. You know, add it to my list of to-do things. But yeah, I really should be conscientious about that. I feel like it's one of those things, like, at least for me as a journey as a quilter, because like I feel like you could get hung up, especially as a beginner, Sabrina, like you could get really hung up on trying to do every little thing perfect, right? Like you have to think about your quarter of an inch. You have to think about how precise you're cutting your fabric. You have to think about how you're pressing your fabric, all of these things. And for me, it's like you can get so bogged down and trying to get everything exactly right. Right. So like when I first started, I only cared about my quarter of an inch. Right. And then I would trim good enough. Now I'm being a little anal when I'm trimming. Right. I'm graduating to the next level. And I do feel like once I have my quarter of an inch perfect, my trimming perfect, maybe I'll be like, okay, now pressing is where I'm going to try to get perfect, because, it's kind of like a journey of wanting to be more precise, maybe, right? If that's you. So I'm not a precise person. I'd rather have it done and I don't want to get bogged down in perfection. So you got to pick and choose how much you worry about everything. But as you quilt more, you'll figure out what things bother you, what things don't bother you, and then you can work on those, right? And another tip, Sabrina, that somebody gave me. Oh, and I do have this question. This would be great. Sabrina's a newer quilter. Sabrina is Arthur. Arthur is her husband's name. So that's why I keep saying Sabrina to Arthur. One tip, and if you have any tips for her as a beginner, what is the best piece of quilting advice you got? My best piece of quilting advice I got is, if you're holding your quilt and somebody's 20 feet away on a galloping horse, could they notice your mistake? If the answer is no, it's not a mistake. If your point is missing, if your thing's a little wonky there, if somebody is walking by it and can't notice it, and it didn't happen, it's fine. Linen. Yes, Linda, linen is the scent I was trying to think of. That is the one I like. So, okay, and Linda is saying, and I hope I just remembered that correctly, that your name is Linda. If not, that's your new nickname. She had a carpenter friend cut a block of white hardwood and attach a knob to it to lay it on my seams after I ironed. The cost of a clapper was too much for me. So I did this block. I just showed a little bit. This is the aperture one. And this is where I started to, you can see that it's a little wonky. And this is when I started worrying about my seams. I did get a clapper after I did this. So a clapper, it's called a tailor's clapper, or you can get a piece of hardwood. I got one of mine at a quilt show, actually. And actually Audrey of Cotton and Bourbon, because I was the first one to finish this block and I didn't have a tailor's clapper when I bought my next pattern from her. She sent me one too free. She's another sweet person out there. So I have two now. One she sent me and one I got. Those are great things to look for when you're looking to like elevate your pressing. So Zaza saying, when I started, I was sewing a 3/8 seam allowance, as that was the machine. I thought all feet were quarter of an inch. You couldn't understand why my blocks are too small. For sure. I don't have that little thing that I'm always talking to you guys about. I have this little tiny tool. I think it's just a seam allowance. Oh my gosh, my life is here it is. It's never too far. This little sucker. I love this little thing. I'm constantly checking my quarter of an inch because it took me I think I had something similar. Zaza, where like all of my stuff was wonky and I'm like, I'm following the foot. Yeah, well, I never, beginner error, never checked to make sure that was actually a quarter of an inch. I was being consistent, but I was being incorrect. I use a new chopping board cut up for clappers. Some of them really are expensive. Yes, Sabrina. So the best thing you can do is you can, check your foot, check your needle position, really take a ruler, Make sure you're getting that 1/4 of an inch, and then write down your settings once you figure it out, because then it'll become second nature to you. There's also I've actually been working on one of these for my blog. I should probably do it, where like a couple little tests to perfect your 1/4 of an inch, because honestly, of all the things to take seriously, your 1/4 of an inch seam is probably the most important thing to perfect early on, because everything gets wonky if you don't have that 1/4 of an inch. And if you change that sewing machine foot, your settings are changing and everything changes. So you got to check it every time. I've been sewing and quilting for quite a while, and I think if you go back, you'll see me sewing on a live and then spot checking my 1/4 of an inch. Paranoia. That's also a little bit of my anxiety. I'm an anxious person, so I was just constantly checking it, even though I haven't changed the settings on my machine. The chopping board's a good idea. Accurate cutting is very important too. The cutting, if you don't start with a accurate cut and an accurate seam allowance, you're in trouble. So a beginner cutting tip I found, or kind of a technique I have found, is, and some people are going to dispute this, so I also recommend that you figure this out for yourself and decide what you want to do. But for me, when I'm cutting, I like to line up my fabric along this line. So I take one of these yellow lines on here, and this one, for example, and I make sure I'm lined up on the bottom. And then I come in here with my ruler. I know there are some people I have seen that will actually completely flip their cutting mats over if they're blank on the other sides, because they don't even want to see the lines on the cutting mat, because I think I've heard even that people are saying like they can get distorted. For me, I like it twice. I like knowing that I have a nice straight edge before I'm starting to cut. So I don't know if anybody else has cutting tips or preferences, but I try to line mine up in as many ways as possible. And then I also take my fingers and I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That measure twice, cut once phrase is true in carpentry and in quilting and probably many other things. But really, I think, so I use the lines on my ruler to determine the measurement. I use the lines on my mat to make sure I'm straight. So I try to start with, the fabric on the 2 lines nice and even, so I know I'm kind of starting from a rectangle or a square. But then when I'm measuring 3 inches, I'm using this. So as I was saying, not all cutting mats are accurate. Even Olfa, I don't know, do you say it Olfa? I like it Olfa, even if that's not right. Say to check the accuracy of your mat lines before using them. So that's interesting. I haven't heard that. I did hear someone tell me, can't remember who now, that over time, if things warp, the measurements aren't as accurate. But that's a great point. I don't typically use my cutting mat for the measurements. I just use it for the lines as a guide. But I just bought a new cutting mat like maybe 3 weeks ago. I've been using, I guess I'm in an upgrade era, because I upgraded my machine I had for 10 years and I updated the hand-me-down cutting mat I had for 10 years too in this past month. And I'm going to measure mine to see. Fun fact. But yeah, that's just keeping things square is how I do it. But Sabrina, you're gonna find too that like that's my opinion, and you might even see other other people who have different opinions or thoughts. I think the thing is sometimes too our brains can be like, I want to do it right? Like I want to do this the correct way. And sure, I just want to tell you that could be multiple correct ways, right? So try a few different things and find what works for you. Find what gives you the most accurate cut. Find what gives you, like, is it best press? Is it starch? Is it pressing? Pressing versus ironing is a little bit, you're always probably going to get a better result with pressing versus ironing. But, just try things a few different ways, because whatever way works best for you is the right way. So try not to get too hung up on, right versus wrong. Correct. Arlie, the correct way is what works best for you 100% of the time. Not only what works best for you, but that you enjoy it. So like some of my very first quilts that I made that were curvy, instead of using a template with my rotary cutter, I traced every single one of them and cut them with scissors. And almost no one would recommend that. But I was too nervous to use a rotary cutter. And guess what? I enjoyed it. I watched my YouTube shows and I created a beautiful quilt after it. So was it the right way or the way like more experience? Would even Tasha today recommend that from Tasha 2 years ago? No, I'd be like, you're crazy. Use your rotary cutter, because now I do. But at the time, that's what I felt comfortable with. That's what I like doing. Was it the most efficient? Oh my gosh, no, it was not the most efficient, but it was enjoyable. We got it. Whatever works. Yes. Quilt police. No, thank you. And changing your needle and rotary blade helps a lot. I'm not as good about the needle, Candace, but I am getting better about the rotary cutter. And man, I don't know about you, but does everybody get like super irritated with yourself when you finally change your rotary blade and you're like, oh my God, I've been suffering through this crappy blade for like weeks. And I'm like, you like get immune to how dull your blade has gotten. And you're like, at least for me, I'm like shoving it down, getting super agitated. And then I change it. I'm like, whoop, whoop, whoop. And I'm like, why? I have like a 10 pack. They're available. They're handy. Why do I torture myself? Why? I don't know. I do need to get better about my needle though. Brenda's going to go change her rotary blade. I actually bought one of those because like a few weeks ago when we were on live, you all were telling me about the cutter that I'm not going to remember the name of, another common trend with me, but it's like the rotary blade that you hold differently off to the side. I haven't tried mine yet, still in the package, but I got that. I can't wait to try that. So how often should you change your needle? So many people recommend on the interwebs that after like any major project, so like I finished this quilt, I should change my needle. Certainly if you like make a mistake with your machine and your needle goes into your presser foot, or you hit something or something wonky happens, it makes a weird noise, you definitely could have bent it or something. I would totally recommend any weird change, any hitting something hard, change the needle. I do that. After that, I would say most people say after a new project. So Arlie says, remove all metal from your rotary cutting area so that you don't accidentally hit it with your fresh rotary blade and nick it. The angst. So another fun fact is you should really make sure you only have one blade in your cutter. So I bought some of this fabric. It was actually Libs Elliott. We're just shouting her out a lot today. I bought some of her fabric to make one of her quilt patterns. And I was like, this fabric, and I like know it was a good quality. It's Andover fabric. She raves about it. And I'm like, why is this fabric is so fraying? Why? Like, I don't understand. I had 2 rotary blades on accident in my cutter. And so as more and more lint got in between, there was like a little bit of buildup. So I was literally making 2 cuts. And then that fray was like the stuff in between. And I cut like half a quilt before it occurred to me or that I realized I had 2 blades in there. So I like to slide them to make sure there's only one. I'm glad to know that's a rite of passage because, man, I was kicking myself. I'm still finding bits of that fabric, and I've vacuumed it like many times since then. And I'm like, oh, there's a bit more of that. What was that? Oh, the phosphor fabric. There's some more because of me. Oh, that's interesting. You can start to hear the punch when when the needle is blunt. That I'm gonna have to pay attention to that. Oh, and be careful about deep grooves in your mat because I was pressing way too hard and they become dull. I do try to move things. I did the same thing on my hand-me-down mat. I always, for some reason, defaulted to the same location and was constantly cutting in the same line. I think that one was even a self-healing, but over time, like I can see it over it's leaning up against the wall. So I do recommend like moving your fabric a little bit this way or that way so that over time you're not cutting, right? Like if you're always lining up on the number 3 or the number 6, you know, move it around just a smidgy so you're not like wearing a groove into your machine, into your mat. Oh, that's so interesting. Candace is saying if you can afford it, buy the self-healing mat. The other mats wear out faster and dulls your blade faster too. I don't think I knew that, but that makes sense. And there are erasers you can buy too. I use one to get all the thread out of those mat cuts. I did not know about that either. We're all learning something today. We are all learning something. That's the best part about quilting though, is it not? Is that I feel that you can always learn something, or somebody has something new and creative or a different technique or a method. There's always something new to learn, which is why I think it's kept my interest for so long. So Arlie, I think that's really part of the reason why I end up switching too, is because of that, because I was defaulting so often to that same place on my mat. Now using the ruler to do the measurements and just using the lines to kind of square up has made a big improvement in that for me. Oh, Zaza saying scrub daddies will work. That's interesting. And Brenda's saying you should soak your mat in the tub and lay flat to dry. Do that once a year. I was thinking about doing that with my old mat to see if I can get the warp out of it. I was always too scared to try it when I was using it all the time. See, like that looks short to me. Again, yeah, that one's definitely a little short. A little short. That's okay. Good night, Tessa. Thank you for coming. I hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend. Sleep well. Thank you so much for joining. Man, this hour is zipping by. I love that. I'm always like, oh, I'm a little tired, especially today, right? Because my kids I worked for a little bit, just a little, not too much today. And then went to the kids' Halloween parade. Then they had a half day. And then, go to the in-laws, go to trick-or-treating. It's a long day. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm tired. Maybe I should not go live tonight. But then once I'm here, I just love chatting with you guys. And it's like I get a little bit of energy. A lot of energy compared to where I was. I love talking about quilting. Well, I'm glad, Sabrina. I am glad. Because I would love to talk about quilting all day long and give tips to people. So I love finding people who are interested in hearing them. But again, take what you want and leave the rest. And I'll do my shameless plug in the description. There should be a link to my Facebook group. So if you would like, it's easier to obviously see what you're working on. If you'd like to join that Facebook group, if you do Facebook, we can see what you're working on. It's still small. For Matt Care, Karen Brown from Just Get It Done Quilts did an interview with someone from Olfa in Karen's quilt circle. It was really informative and interesting. I'll have to find that. See, there's so many things to learn. So just pick one or two and then make a list and finish the rest later. because it's easy to get overwhelmed with the amount of things that you can take time to learn. Me too. I love learning too, which is why I am truly obsessed with quilting, and also now truly obsessed with this YouTube thing, because like learning how to video edit is like super fun. I just love it all. Never stop learning. This one is so wonky. Like, how does that happen? You know? How do the fabrics you cut the same way and sew the same way? Some of them are just wonky. Does anybody have any exciting plans for this weekend? Halloween is done for us. We are done. We did Halloween all last weekend, Halloween today, done. Kids have a long weekend. I'm going to do a little bit of work tomorrow, parent-teacher conferences, and then I am going to definitely relax for a couple days. We don't really have any major plans. I think my son's got one little birthday party. That witch hat never happened. The witch hat I've been looking at never happened. I have it cut though, but I think I screwed up the fusible foam and I was getting irritated. Brenda's doing the Carly Porter class, the graffiti quilting class. That's really cool. And doing some customer stuff. Very cool. Candace is doing a virtual sewing day on Saturday and a car show on Sunday. Oh, that's fun. What do you do the virtual sewing day through? Like your quilt guild or something? Cheryl's working on getting some binding done while following the chat. Oh, she's doing that right now. A hexagon quilt made from a layer cake, a super quick project. That's a hexagon quilt made from a layer cake. Just trying to imagine that. How you get a hexagon. Oh, I think I might have seen a video about something like that on Missouri Star once. That sounds cool. I think I'm going to challenge myself in the new year for a couple different projects. But I have had some pre-cuts, like a layer cake, jelly roll. I think I have some charm squares. I've never used any of them. I got a bunch of them. So that might be something to store away. I do like hexies. I do like English paper piecing. I got to make myself a new English paper piecing pattern at some point too. I was on a groove there for a while. This was supposed to be a pumpkin, a theme for me. Never got the stem though. And I was like, this is kind of big and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. What would I do with it? I don't know. So now I got this thing. So hexies sound pretty good to me. Making a quote with Donna of Handmade by Ying this weekend. Oh, will you guys be streaming that? I'll have to check it out. Oh, hey, Chloe. I hope your trick-or-treating went well. Man, my kids were pooped. I bet yours are too. Jilly says, I'm going to try to catch a mouse that got into my house this week and then work on a new quilt I just started. Oh my gosh. Those little mice, man, they will get ya. Oh, Zaza, you like English paper piecing? I have never done like a full quilt top. Have you completed a full quilt top? I'm mostly collecting these blocks. I had this dream. These are all Tula Pink solids. Boop, boop. Not this one. These two are Tula Pink solids. And then I have this back here. I think, yeah, you can see that. That's a fat quarter bundle of Tula Pink solids. And I had this dream of like doing all different shapes with Tula Pink. Stephen Bland, the Idiot Quilter on YouTube. Oh, I missed where. Oh, you're doing the virtual sewing day on Saturday with. I was a little bit behind. Oh, that's fun. I have seen, I think, the Idiot Quilter sounds familiar. So I think I have seen, does he do like daily videos? Maybe with his partner or something? I feel like I've seen that. Little chats. I think I've watched one or two of them when they pop up on my like recommended page. I am thinking about creating a sampler quilt with my EPP blocks, and I really want to make another EPP block. Actually, oh, which one was it? This one. I am thinking of making like a variation of this one. I have it started on my computer, but you know how that goes. I went while I'm trying to get my 4-year-old to bed way too late. Yeah, my girls are still visiting their grandfather. My 7-year-old was like basically crying and saying, please, can I go to bed? So he went right down. My 4-year-old, she was ready to party today. And then Zaza, I'll have to pick your brain. I love FPP, but I'm working on EPP hexes. Pick her brain about it. It's just so fun. I absolutely love English paper piecing while like sitting down and relaxing for the night, so you can kind of chill with the family, read book. You know, the kids can read books to me or watch TV with the husband, and then can still be working on a quilting project. Leah, the witch hat did not happen. That is my stepsister. And she's been wanting to know how my witch hat went because she wants one. So we'll make witches hats happen for next year for sure. Did not happen this year. Sabrina asked, do you find sewing classes, etc., more on Facebook or YouTube? So in terms of like pretty much everything, a lot of everything I've learned is from YouTube University, as they say. There's so many great tutorials. If I'm looking to like actually purchase a class or find somebody who's selling a class a workshop, which I have done and taken a few, I don't typically find those on YouTube. It's generally like Facebook or Instagram. Like I scroll through Instagram enough that I eventually find, a creator or a quilter that I like to follow. I don't know if anybody has any other advice for Sabrina on how she could find sewing classes, but I don't really watch on Facebook. I don't think there might be some groups out there that might have some tutorial information, but for me, like there's an infinite amount of tutorials and tips on YouTube. I love YouTube, which is why I'm here. Hello, Esa Lopez. Yeah, and Brenda's with me. Instagram or newsletters. Yep. I feel like I will probably be doing a couple EPP blocks on my lives too at some point here because it is so much easier to. Yes, I am going to do a sew every day again in January. And yeah, that's actually a great idea to finish that witch hat. That is a great idea. I actually want to plan, and I think I might make a cheat sheet. And I love how you said when we sew every day, Chloe. Love that. Looking forward to that. I think I want to create like a little planning sheet, which I'll like give away to anybody who wants to join me for sewing every day in January, and kind of be like, these are the things I want to accomplish. So I could put a witch hat on there, maybe organizing, because sewing every day for me means just like spending at least 15 minutes in my sewing room. So that could be organizing, sewing, ironing, trimming, right? I am sewing right now, even though I'm not sewing, to me. So, and I want to be like, here's the 5 big things I want to accomplish in my 30 days. Oh, Leah's ready to come help. All right. I'm going to recruit you in. Our witch hat for Thanksgiving. The pilgrims need an enemy. Fair enough. I mean, really. Yeah. Witch hats are good any time of year. You dress them up. I love seeing on YouTube saying 15 minutes. Yeah. 15 minutes a day. So I was thinking too, like, well, I would love to get your guys' opinion on this is when I go to do that sewing every day in January. I was thinking I don't know if everybody's on Facebook or YouTube, so I could do it both. Like, what if I made a post every day and everyone could comment or send a photo of exactly what they did if you wanted, like accountability kind of thing. And I could be like, here's what I did in my 15 minutes. I'll probably make my little videos again too. I could do those on either Facebook or YouTube. And so I could be checking in on everybody. And I could do maybe, we could think about that. If there's like certain times, I could do maybe a few lives like this, maybe. And we could all be doing our 15 minutes together in the Facebook group. Yeah, I think that would be fun. I like accountability too. So this is what I'm dreaming of. Let me know if you're interested. So you know how I was just talking about like a little goal sheet to be like, here's the things I want to accomplish in my 30 days when I'm sewing in January. I also like, have you ever seen like, okay, I have this goal to do something, so I'm going to color in this thing every day. And I was like, what if I made a quilt block, like coloring sheet, just not like that we sew, but like as part of the coloring sheet that like it has 31 pieces on it. So then every day when you're done, you color in, the little piece. And so you can track what you're doing too. But yes, so Cheryl, I agree. The great part about 15 minutes is like some days I was like 15 minutes in and out, in and out. But then other days, like 15 minutes turned into 2 hours and I was like in such a good mood after the thing. Oh, Chloe's into it. Cool. I'm gonna make that little planning and tracking sheet, and then I will make posts somewhere, and then I would be down to do lives or something. It'd just be hard for me to be like every day at this time we're gonna do it, just kids and life. But I would definitely love to do that. It was so fun for me in September. I almost feel like I was telling my husband, like, I think I'm gonna do this like every quarter. I'm gonna have a month. That's a lot what our guild guest speaker presented. Data quilting. That is so interesting. Sabrina, yeah, I would love to have you. It's still a little group. We're still, growing, but love to have you there. And yeah, I try to like check in, and I love to see what everybody posts in there. Cool. Well, guys, start prepping your ideas of what you want to accomplish. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, if every day at 8 a.m. my time, I'm like, hey, it's day 2. What are you working on? Then whenever anybody got to it, they could post and we could all cheer everybody on, and it would be nice. I don't think YouTube lets you post pictures in the comments. I'll have to check that out. I'm not super familiar, but on the community tab, I don't think. And what's fun about sewing if you can't see the pictures? So Bernice says, hi, Tasha, new subscriber. Welcome. Loving your channel. Just wondering if you've ever made a puff quilt and are they good for a beginner? So I have never made a puff quilt, but I can give you my opinion on if I think it would be good for a beginner. But then I'll let somebody in the chat, if there's somebody in the chat who's made a puff quilt. My thought is it wouldn't be a great beginner quilt. Because for me, the idea of stuffing something and then trying to sew it when I'm trying to learn all the other basics could be a little challenging. I don't know if anybody else has made a puff quilt. I think like if you're a motivated beginner though, and you want to give it a go, I wouldn't stop you from doing that. I would say all the power to you. But for me, I'm not sure how stuffing that and then getting that through your sewing machine might be. I'm not sure if anybody here has made a puff quilt. I've been looking at them. They look cute, but I have never made one. I trip on my list. It's so long. I'm with you, Brenda. I'm with you. Well, we are actually at 10 o'clock. That's crazy. This went by so fast. But I'm just going to pause to see if anybody's made a puff quilt so we can give Bernice some advice. I'm guessing because nobody has said I've made a puff quilt that this crowd is puff quiltless. And that is true, Zaza. Like sometimes doing things as a beginner before you know the rules makes it easier, right? So, I mean, it's square shapes. I definitely think you could do it as a beginner. But I don't think it would be like I'm a beginner. What's a good beginner-friendly project for me? I'm not sure that would have been at the top of my list. I made a flying geese quilt, my first quilt. I don't think anyone would have recommended that for a beginner either. Yeah, and I think the link to my Facebook group is in the description. Oh, and then there's Brenda found a Lo and Behold Stitchery quilt along puff. Yes, Sabrina, thanks for coming. I love this. So I'm happy to do it. Chloe, it was a mystery quilt, so I didn't even know what I was doing. But like Zaza said, I didn't know what I was doing, so it was fine. I didn't even know what I didn't know. I just went for it. It was fine. Now when I look at that quilt, it's wild, but it was fine at the time. So Cheryl made a puff quilt early in our quilting journey before I knew it might have been challenging. Ignorance was bliss and it turned out well. So there you go. I think you can do it. All right, everybody. Well, we are after 10, so I'll let you all go. I did get some trimming done. Got a little pile here. I just love chatting with you all. I'm not going to hang up quick so that we can all say goodnight. But thank you all for coming, especially on Halloween. I appreciate that. I appreciate you every time. And I will see you next Thursday. And I'm going to try to post a video between now and then, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Good night. I hope to see you all again. Stay safe, sleep well. Happy Halloween. And I hope everybody relaxes this weekend and finds some time to do something for yourself. Thank you, Zaza, for the chat and all your tips. So awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening to me blab. I love it. I love you guys. All right. See you later.